Welcome to Security Take 2, Real Serious Security, a new podcast by myself, Chester Wisniewski, and my co-host, Ben Verscharen.
This is episode 0, and the title of this episode is the pilot episode. Today is May 22nd, 2024.
Thanks, Ben. This is the pilot episode, and what we really intend to do here is just briefly summarize kind of what the podcast is about, to get it out there and start publishing our RSS feed and that kind of things, to get things rolling, establish our social media presence, etc. And for folks that have gotten the message that we're doing this, the idea behind Security Take 2 is it's a look back, or a second take perhaps, on the hot takes and the instant news that we see about so many security incidents. I've been working in this industry for quite some time, and we see very frequently that there's assumptions made and guesses and accusations and all this stuff in the heat of the moment when security news is breaking. But we often don't learn the truth for weeks, months, and occasionally, sometimes even years, about what really happened. And as information security professionals, to really learn from these incidents, we need to understand what went wrong, what went right, how we might avoid similar situations for ourselves. And I think this is a bit of a global phenomenon. We had a recent incident here in Canada, where I'm coming to you from, with a pharmaceutical chain. And, we weren't sure when their stores closed whether it had been ransomware or some other type of an attack. There was a lot of speculation going on. And, as of the time of this recording, we're, 4 weeks past that now. And it turns out a ransomware group has now claimed this attack and explained their demands, and of course is about to potentially release stolen information. So these stories are developing, but the media kind of lost their interest a couple weeks ago. Like when the stores closed is when it was in the news, and we kind of missed what really happened. And so the goal here is to kind of review what really happens. And I imagine in your part of the world, Ben, there must be similar things going on, right?
It's exactly the same everywhere in the world, but over here in Australia, where I'm coming from, a great example of this was the Optus breach. So Optus is one of Australia's largest telecommunications company, and they lost something like 10 million records. And it was the first breach of that magnitude. And of course, the media were all over it. Was it, cyber criminals? Was it a teenager from their parents' basement? And the Optus breach was the first time we saw an incident discussed in Parliament, and we saw emergency powers allocated to various levels of government in order to resolve this. So it's not unique anywhere in the world to say that, there's ambulance chasing going on via the media and the true story never actually comes out. So on that, tell us about yourself, Chet. People are listening for the first time. They might not have met you before. They might not have a clue who you are and have stumbled across a podcast feed. Tell me a bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, I've been at this for a while. I started kind of hacking and freaking in the days before the internet in the 1980s, and it obviously gives you a different perspective on how to approach things, but it's always been fascinating to me how human beings can find ways of using, and most of the time probably abusing, tools in ways they weren't really intended. Professionally, I've been working in security for just over 25 years. And in that experience, I've worked on behalf of organizations to help protect them. I've worked for companies doing consulting to give companies advice on how to do it. And I've worked for security vendors producing some of the tools and advice directly from the trenches of working and investigating cybercrime itself, to try to figure out how we do a better job at protecting people. And that's one of the things that's motivated me to create this podcast, is that I think the perspective those of us have from that angle of day-to-day experiencing what multiple different victims are experiencing is very different from the perception of what companies and individuals think they face when it comes to cyber threats. So I'm excited to share my knowledge from my years of experience with the world. How about yourself, Ben?
Yeah, so I didn't start in the 80s. I was born in the 80s, though. No dig at you there at all. So myself, I've been in IT now for just over 2 decades. I started off in managed services. I was fortunate enough to not be quite so academic, but I had a secondary school or a high school that was quite supportive of me getting into computing and working in their IT department, and slowly worked my way into security. And I can proudly say that about 10 or 11 years ago, I became a full-time security professional. And, from securing networks and focusing on secure architecture to then moving into areas such as penetration testing. And like you, ended up at a security vendor and focused on protecting customers and developing, what I like to think is world best technology. So I've really enjoyed my journey in IT so far, and having gone from, that level 1 help desk support all the way up to, now leading a team of developers and focusing on security threats and doing research. I like to think that I've got quite a diverse skill set to provide a unique or interesting perspective on various situations.
Yeah, one of the things I like about your background that's different than mine, Ben, is that you have more experience from a software development perspective and understanding the importance of managing secrets and keys and the processes involved in approaching developing a software security supply chain, I guess I would call it. And it's something I don't have as much experience in. And I think your knowledge, I'll be very much looking forward to in the podcast exploring a bit, because my knowledge is much more from the malware analysis and even governance and regulation side of things. And so I think they're very different viewpoints. And I think those all need to be considered when we're evaluating every security situation, that might be analyzed, and helping people understand how these things work together.
Well, time will tell. I'm looking forward to our first episode, and we'll see what we can put together.
Well, I guess to kind of conclude our 0th episode, we do have some information out there if you want to be in touch with us as we're establishing our presence and helping us get the word out to the community that we're doing this. We hope to be getting regular publication of podcasts going soon. And we do have a YouTube presence. We're up on youtube.com/@securitytake2. And we also have a website at securitytake2.com. You can reach us over email at hosts@securitytake2.com. And Ben, I think you've got us going on Reddit.
I certainly have. So you can find us over on Reddit at reddit.com/r/securitytake2, or just search for Security Take 2. We've got no competing subreddits or anyone trying to impersonate us at this point in time.
Well, that's pretty amazing. We didn't have to eliminate any vowels, and we've come up with a name for something that is not in confusion with other things on the internet. I think I'll take that as a win. So on that note, I don't imagine you've enjoyed the pilot episode, but hopefully you'll learn what we're up to, and we would encourage you to support us by getting the word out. And we hope to see you soon with episode 1.